Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, and that is Taylor Smith. We are joined together to go over this 5-game main slate over at DraftKings. The goal is to help you win money. If you want to do just that, you can catch this free video, obviously, as you're watching, or you can also join our Discord, which also happens to be free, where we break down the slate, offer advice, look at your lineups, and also offer core plays leading into lock. We're also offering FanDuel core plays and Night Slate core plays for a price on our Patreon. You can catch that link at the bottom of our channel here. And also, if you join us in Discord, we can point you in the right direction too. So if you are aided by any of our advice here, you can hit the like button. Helps us out quite a bit. You can also subscribe to our channel. Helps you out too, because you get alerted to future videos just like this. All right, let's get into it. The way we do it, we go position by position, looking at the top plays and kind of just looking at which guys we prefer, and based off our ownership and projections and matchups, and hopefully point you in the right direction. So right up top, at point guard, Anthony Edwards looks really good per usual. Gets the Jazz, which is an amazing spot. Second most expensive point guard on the slate, but he looks way better than the most expensive guy, which is Trae Young. So why don't we start there with Anthony Edwards? Obviously, 51-point fantasy projection. He's going to carry a little bit of ownership. What are you thinking about him?
Awesome play. Prices are coming up, but he's earned it. He's been quite a bit better since he decided just to stop passing ever. So all the usage for him, they're playing fucking Utah. So that's a boost for him. Utah is closer to full strength tonight, so maybe they can keep it respectable. Minnesota on a back-to-back, of course. So good spot for Edwards. Minutes are always through the roof. No qualms with that whatsoever. Minnesota in general is a good source of value on this slate thanks to the matchup and the cheap prices on most of them. Edwards obviously not cheap, but he's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Edwards looks awesome. I mean, he's obviously always at risk to drop 50 real points. He's very, very explosive, high usage rate. Slight blowout risk here, but like you said, Utah being, I think they have like everybody at this point. So that is certainly good if you want the game to go the distance. The only issue here is he's probably going to pick up a little bit of ownership, and there are a lot of options that are very, very alluring beneath him in terms of price. You have Donovan Mitchell, 8.4, and Thompson, 8.3, and Austin Reeves at 8.5 in particular. I suppose you could do the GPP dance with Ja Morant. I don't really want to do that because he still remains limited, but in the name of Zion, he does have the upside, and he is a great per minute guy, so you can play him if you want. But I'm really looking at Spida, Amen, and Austin Reeves the most. With Garland back, not super into Mitchell, really, because we know that his ceiling lowers when Garland is in and when Evan Mobley is in. When they're at full strength, I don't love paying a premium for Cavs guys. Not that 8.4 is a premium, but either way, Austin Reeves.
Oh my God.
That's a blast from the past. Austin Reeves and Amen Thompson, in my opinion, look like the two best plays at this position. If you can afford the extra 1K, Anthony Edwards looks great. But I mean, I would like to go into the slate with Amen and Reeves in my lineup, and you can do that by pushing Amen over to small forward. Anyways, what do you feel about those guys? And do you have any interest in Trae at 9.8?
Not really. Against Cleveland, like it's a pretty horrible spot for Atlanta in general. So full price Trae. I know there's no Johnson and Bogdanovich and Capella and stuff, but even that is pretty thin, I think. Like Edwards, I would just much rather play at the discount, even on the back-to-back.
Agreed.
I do think Mitchell is a very strong play on DK at 8.4. Just a great matchup against Atlanta. He could deal with Dyson Daniels, but I'm not overly concerned. Like Cleveland's still thin on backups. Like their starters don't usually get extended minutes. I don't fully expect them to necessarily, but at 8.4 on a pretty small slate, I think Mitchell's a pretty good play. Reeves at 8.5 on DK is going to be interesting to see. Like that's probably the most expensive he's ever been, but no AD. Obviously, no D'Lo gets a big boost. The Lakers have a bunch of questionable dudes. Like there's a chance LeBron could sit out also, which would make Reeves the best play on the entire slate. They're also playing the Wizards, so that's a nice helper to him. Reeves on FanDuel is 7,800, so like that's just someone you're playing without.
Yeah, that's a core play on FanDuel. Yep.
FanDuel with its higher salary cap, so anyone who's cheaper on FanDuel than on DK is just like an awesome value generally. Yep. So Reeves looks great there, still great on DK. Morant is someone who's also cheaper on FanDuel. I have more interest in him there. And then Amen, like you said, you're probably playing him at small forward just because that's always a weaker spot than point guard, even on a small slate. But fabulous play. No bad things to say about him.
Yeah, I'm with you. Donovan Mitchell is a good play. He projects better than Amen and Austin Reeves. I just like those two guys a little bit more today. So going down here, Jordan Poole looks really good too. He projects really well. Obviously, if you're going to play Lakers, you might want to consider a Washington run back or two. That game has a really high total. Actually, no, it doesn't. It's not that crazy. I thought it was higher. But still, really good DFS environment. Possibly a little bit underrated, to be honest. But he looks good at 6.9K. We know I thought he was 7.1. Was he 7.1 yesterday? Yeah, I think so. But anyway, still really good price, really good projection, really good matchup. He's coming in with 24% ownership. I don't have a problem with it at all. I like Jordan Poole at that price. In that same range, you can consider guys like Dyson Daniels, Fred VanVleet, Darius Garland. I just think if I'm going to go down there, Poole is the guy. Working our way down to values, Mike Conley obviously stands out, but his old ass did play last night. Not super interested in that. I think if I'm going to go in that range for a punt, I'm looking at Ty Jerome. Darius Garland is back, but still no Karis LeVert, still no Isaac Okoro, and Sam Merrill is questionable. So what do you like in that next tier in like the 7 and 6K range, and what values do you like today?
Yeah, I do have interest in Conley. I'm a little bit concerned about him on a back-to-back. He played 29 last night with DiVincenzo and Nas Reed out, so they could scale him back a little bit. But even in 24 minutes, if you give him 24 minutes at 4-3 against Utah, it's a pretty good spot. So I don't mind it. I think he's okay, just kind of given the lack of cheap stuff that looks great at this position. I think Jerome's fine. Like, the role should be similar to the one he had last night when he came off the bench with Garland out, Garland back tonight. So not concerned about it. Should be pretty popular again, I would assume. People are going to chase the big score he had last night. Don't think he's a must play on this slate. I do think there will be other value to be had. So it's okay. Poole, you didn't mention Anthony Simons, but I think he's pretty interesting at 6'4". Orlando's not a good matchup, but if Suggs is out, it does get a little bit better for someone like him. And on a small-ish slate, I think taking a shot on a mid-range Simons is pretty decent. Plus Grant's questionable, and if Grant is out, he could see a little more usage.
Well, okay, so I didn't mention Simons because he's facing the Magic, and that's just not a good environment or matchup at all, especially if Suggs were to be in. That's pretty brutal. I like the price and the talent. Like, he's a decent, it's a good scorer. So, he can certainly get hot and at that price pay off. Kind of prefer him on FanDuel, to be honest, just because you can flip him around in 4 different slots, and there's nobody else really appealing in that price range. So if you land on Simons at FanDuel, I don't mind that. On DK, I'm having a tough time making him a priority, and his projection isn't really that amazing for the price. So I think he's okay, and he's not going to be owned, so that's nice, but I'm not really in on him. The other guy we should talk about is Rob Dillingham. It's going to be interesting to see. I guess Naw is in this conversation too, but he's a shooting guard. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Conley if Conley actually is active. Do you think there's a scenario where Conley is kind of limited here and Dillingham picks up a ton of extra minutes?
Yeah, that's why I said, if you don't give Conley as many minutes as he had last night, he's still going to look like a good value. Dillingham at 3.2 on DK is fine either way. 3.8 on FanDuel is also playable. Would not play Conley and Dillingham together. Obviously, they negatively correlate. They're probably not going to share the floor. There is a chance. We don't have the injury report yet, I don't think, for Minnesota on the back-to-back. So there's a real chance they could sit Conley altogether, which would probably make Dillingham the most popular value on the entire slate. I don't think that'll happen, but you never know. But Dillingham's fine even off the bench. He's so cheap that it's okay. He's good per minute. The minutes have been volatile, but we have seen him get a few more when he's playing well, and the back-to-back could work in his favor.
All right, so what other values deep down here at point guard do you like? You're looking at Carrington or Gabe Vincent?
None.
Nobody else?
Never played Gabe Vincent. Do not roster Gabe Vincent in any scenario.
Well, he's projected for 22 minutes against the Wizards. Just saying. I think the other
22 minutes and probably 9 fantasy points.
Yep. I think the other thing worth noting is that Ja Morant is questionable. Midday questionable tag. He was at shoot around, but in the event he's out, obviously we can look at Kennard and or Scottie Pippen on this slate. They are both pretty darn cheap. All right, over to shooting guard we go. Anthony Edwards obviously rules the day there. There's also Donovan Mitchell. Next up is Desmond Bane. He's the first guy we haven't talked about. He projects decently at 7.7K in a really positive DFS environment, 236.5 total against the Rockets. Funny thing is, both these teams are very capable of being stingy defensively, but they also play fast-paced, specifically Memphis, number 1 team in terms of pace in the league. I think Houston's 11th. So both these teams do like to push the pace. Very high total. So I don't mind Desmond Bain. I just would definitely prefer Morant to be out. Jalen Green does not project like a god, but he has smashed in this matchup. 46 fantasy points per game across 3 meetings with the Grizzlies. Still not that expensive. I actually love that the projections are not like crazy for him because he's not going to be owned probably at all. So I think he's a really interesting GPP play. So what do you think about Desmond Bain? Have any thoughts on any other expensive guys here? I mean, expensive. Most of these guys are like 7.4K. Or are there any other mid-range guys at shooting guard that you like?
Yeah, I think Bain's okay. Obviously, he gets a boost if Morant is out. He's another guy who's a better play on FanDuel where he's 75 and small forward eligible. So pretty useful over there. Less so on DK, more expensive, only shooting guard. We talked about Edwards and Mitchell. They're great plays. Jalen Green on FanDuel as well, 7,100. Yep. You have to find 2 shooting guards to play, which is often the difficulty with FanDuel's formatting. But Green at 7-1 is a guy I'm getting to a lot over there, and he's still not projected to be popular on FanDuel, so I love that. You can also play Reeves there, which is awesome on FanDuel. And Thompson is shooting guard on FanDuel is a lot better than it is on DK. On DK, I think you're kind of living in the Edwards range, and then otherwise you're punting it with someone like Strus, someone like Alexander Walker, someone like Max Christie, Jalen Wells, perhaps if Morant is out would look a little bit better, but Houston's just a very tough matchup. So I'm not super psyched about these wing Grizzlies, especially someone who's low usage and weak per minute like Wells.
Yeah. What's your interest in Jalen Green on DK? Like obviously at 7.1 on FanDuel, he looks really appealing, but like a DK he's not projecting like crazy well, but
he looks good on DK. Like 7.4, he's been kind of rough. Like he's super streaky. He had that streak where he was amazing. He's now in a streak where he's kind of struggling a little bit, but like you said, the pace of the game should suit him well. Houston's still without Jabari, so that does boost Jalen and some of these other guys. I think he's a good tournament play on DK too. Just a guy on FanDuel, because you have to play 2, I'm getting to a lot more.
100%. I love him on FanDuel. Borderline core play, to be honest. It's like, and then another reason why Simons looks so good there too, because you can use him at 4 slots and also specifically shooting guard. All right, so looking at the value, you touched on Max Christie. If Rui is in, Max Christie looks a little less appealing, but with Brow out, I think everybody gets a boost here. So he looks pretty good at 4.6K. His minutes went down last game because Dalton Connect went off. Obviously, that's just going to be a case-by-case situation. You certainly can try Connect as a GPP flyer, but Christie just feels like a safer play. You mentioned Max Strus. He looks solid. Let's see who else here. There is Naw, who we touched on, but we really haven't elaborated because we haven't touched on the shooting guard yet. He looks good at 3.4 again. He was really good yesterday and played over 30 minutes. I would imagine he would be in for a good amount of run, possibly anyways, but especially if Nas sits again. So what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, it's kind of Nas is kind of the key for him because he's not typically playing a big role. And obviously Conley, like we don't know if Conley's playing. If Conley's out, that's another way Nas can get a few more minutes. Generally not someone I like to play. He's not very good per minute, but he did get a boost in that regard without Reed. So we'll see. Like for now, I think he's okay. Just on DK's 3-4, like it's pretty hard to find anyone in that range who's going to play 20-something minutes. So viable by default, but he would be upgraded quite a bit if Reed or Conley would sit. Look
at poor Cole Anthony down here with the no-minute projection with Suggs due back. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. All right. Is there anybody else at shooting guard that you have interest in, whether it be a GPP flyer or somebody maybe we just didn't touch on?
I do think Christie on FanDuel is a lot more useful, again, since you have to find 2 of them, and he's 4-2 over there, shooting guard only. You can cycle through Dylan Brooks, I guess. You can play Vit Krejci with Atlanta, so short-handed at 5-4 on FanDuel. As far as DK goes, like Koulibaly maybe, 5-5. Pretty decent game environment against the Lakers guard forward. I don't hate that. And then Strus, like we said, Cleveland's without a bunch of guys. I'm a little concerned about him on the back-to-back since he's been managed for most of the season, but he did play 33 last night, so it seems like he's not really limited anymore. Guard forward, great matchup against Atlanta. I think Strus, dollar for dollar, is probably my favorite shooting guard on the slate, and small forward probably.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, because if you look at him compared to like Koulibaly, Kamara, you can save like $1,000 in salary and get kind of the same guy. So assuming we don't have to worry about his minutes or anything, I agree. Strus and Christie both look pretty damn good on this slate. as far as value goes anyways. For over at small forward, Amon Thompson is the best projecting option. Franz Wagner not very far behind. They both look like awesome plays. Right now, Franz is way less owned, so he's a little bit more appealing. But they both look great. I have no problem rostering them together either. Denny has a nice projection, and he's not going to be very owned, so he's okay. Not super interested in Lowry Markkinen, so definitely cue the 40 real point game from him, which would make no sense. But I just think Amon, Franz, and even Denny just are better plays. Koulibaly, who I mentioned before, he's okay in the Lakers game that could be up and down. Jaden McDaniels just keeps crushing, dude. At 5.5K, he's a little bit too cheap. Still a pretty viable, like second, third tier value option at 6K on FanDuel as well. I think he's a guy that can help things out there. You mentioned Strus and Vit. Don't know if I want to do 5.9 Vit, but you're not wrong about the extra usage. So how do you feel about that upper portion? I'm pretty sure you're in agreement with me there. And are there any values here that stand out?
Yeah, Vit was more of a FanDuel play, not so much on DK where he's more expensive. I agree on Franz Wagner. Like, they're playing Portland, a trash team who could be without Jeremy Grant, a decent defender. On FanDuel, you could play he and Banchero at small forward. Both are great plays. Wouldn't have any issue playing them together over there. On DK, I might consider splitting them up, but we'll see. I haven't really done a deep dive into how the lineups look. I would assume it's not going to happen often with LeBron being such a great play, but we'll see. On FanDuel, you can play LeBron here too at 10-1. So against the Wizards, top overall play on the slate, arguably without AD, without D'Angelo Russell, of course. So no issue with that. As far as DK goes, it's mostly the same guys, Strus and Amen Thompson standing out quite a bit. I think Rui might be bad chalk. I understand it's the Wizards, but he's not amazing per minute. It looks like he's going to be pretty popular at the moment. He's an okay play, but I'm not sure it's someone you have to have. Avdia, like you said, always good in tournaments. Not a whole lot here. It's a pretty shitty position as usual.
Yeah, and obviously the whole Nah thing, like, I think we agree. If Nas is ruled in, that gets me a lot less interested in him for sure. Like, obviously it's a 5-game slate, a 3.4K for a guy who does have a bench roll anyways. I just think he becomes a lot more thin. So just keep an eye on like the actual context around some of these situations, because I mean, if he's going to like actually be 25-30% owned and people are going to ignore that news, then that would be a spot where I would get away from that chalk. But right now he looks fine too. I think we talked about most of these other guys. Jalen Tyson, who started yesterday, will be pretty irrelevant with Darius Garland back. But if he randomly, I can't see why he would start actually, but if he randomly did, who knows? 3K. All right, on to power forward we go. LeBron James is the best play of the slate with a 56-point fantasy projection. Very expensive at 10.5K, especially relative to the slate. Amazing matchup. Going to be really owned. I mean, you can make strong cases for or against LeBron. Old as shit, very chalky, very expensive, but also amazing matchup, best projection, So I'm cool either way. Like, I'm pretty cool with playing LeBron if that is what the best lineup looks like. And I'm also, there's so much good, like, upper mid-range options here that I really do not mind going against them. So do you have a hard stance on LeBron tonight?
Not really. I'll probably be around the field. I just don't want to be under because he's going to be super chalky and the matchup's awesome. I'm just not necessarily making him a core play. Like, if you want to make him a core play, that's perfectly fine. He's going to be great if he's in. But I do think you can live in the mid-range a little bit. We mentioned the Orlando stuff. Banchero on both sides looks good. Evan Mobley, Julius Randle, Avdia, all these guys that are under 8K look pretty good to me. Avdia being the least favorite of the three. For me, I think Mobley is an awesome play. Like I said, in particular, even on the back-to-back, going to be popular, it looks like. But I think with good reason. Atlanta, just without Capella and without Jalen Johnson, they're pretty short. They have Okongwu, of course, and then it's like Larry Nance. Like, they really don't have a lot of beef down there. I think Mobley's in a good spot. Randall, if Reed is out, would look better again, but still playable either way. And I think you can consider Reed, even on the illness tag. Don't love it. But, it's Utah, 5-5. Mike Conley, questionable. So there's that.
There you
that
go.
Feels like he's going to be out to me. Nas Reed,
I would imagine. Dillingham, core play season.
So
and
Reed is in.
Who's in?
See how that Nas Reed is in.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I like Naz Reid at 5.5K against the Jazz, especially if you're going down in this range from like Kuz at 6.4, DeAndre Hunter 6.2, like all these other guys like Rui at 4.9. I'd rather just go up and get Naz over Rui. I'd rather go down from Kuzma to Naz. But Kuzma, obviously, in that game environment, totally fine. He remains pretty cheap for the player he can be. If he's going to be like he was a few games ago when he said he was going to go scorched earth or whatever, he got 52 fantasy points. And then, or he said after that, he was going to do that, and then he sucked both games. So we'll see which Kuz stands up tonight, but I think he's okay. Yeah, so up top, like I said, I said I'm kind of indifferent on LeBron. I don't mind meeting the field at all. If you want to go overweight and just buy into amazing spot, best projection, that's fine. But Banchero looks like a way better play, in my opinion, and he's way less owned. So I think if you don't want to play LeBron or you want to be underweight, one really good way to leverage that is going to be Banchero. And then obviously the other really good way is probably going to be Anthony Edwards. But both those guys look good, but specifically at power forward and on FanDuel too, Banchero's a little bit too cheap. So he looks awesome across the board. I'm okay with Mobley, Randall, JJJ, Denny, kind of in that order. I mean, that's how they project anyways. Mobley, the only thing is second leg of a back-to-back set. You know, they've kind of been taking it easy on him a little bit. So not super sold on him, but he looks like the best play of that pack. For sure. So going down here, one guy I really like is going to be Tari Eason. He is back. And obviously Jabari Smith is still out and Şengün is questionable. So even if Şengün is in, I like Tari. But if Şengün is out, Tari Eason could be a god on this slate. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I like him a good amount. He scores better on FanDuel where you get 3 for blocks and steals. That's kind of what he does. So great play on both sides. The dual position thing on FanDuel is also pretty useful. He's only power forward on DK, so a little bit more limiting, but he is cheaper over there. So okay with that. If Şengün is out, he's going to look a lot better. I assume the minutes would be a bit more secure. No idea what they would do with the starting center if Şengün is out. Like, I don't think it's a guarantee that they would start Adams or Landale. They could
Jock
just
Landale
go small.
Season.
I think Adams is also questionable. So
he is. It's
a lot of ways that can
shaping
go.
up as a jock strap day. It really is.
They could start Jeff Green if they wanted to do that.
You know what? That is what they would do, isn't it? That is what
probably.
They would do.
It's hard to imagine they would start an actual center, like even if Edie's starting or something. I don't know. We'll see about that. But I do think
Are you playing Jeff Green if he starts?
No.
Nobody ever wants to play Jeff Green. He'd probably be pretty chalky though. Actually, people would probably play him. All right. What about Mohammed? Is it Gee?
Gay.
Okay, so he started the last game. Larry Nance did not start. Obviously, Jalen Johnson is out. It's possible he would start again. Any interest in him at that price?
Yeah, he's cheap enough. 22 minutes in the last game. He was pretty active. He hasn't played a lot over the last couple of years. Like, he's a deep bench warmer, but they're so thin that he's kind of got a role. He's played 2 games all season, looks like. So yeah, he'd be fine if he starts. If he doesn't start, then run far away.
100%. I agree. All right, over to center we go. Şengün is the best projecting center if he's in. I think he's shaping up as a pretty damn good GPP play for sure. I don't think Edie's going to stop him if he's in, and shouldn't be limited if he's in. And it's a really good game environment, good projection, and just not owned. So he's really cool if he's in. If he's out, like I said, like Tari, all the Astros, all the Rockets guys get a nice usage boost. But then if he's out, or if you just don't want him, there's just like nothing really that pulls at me up here. Like you said, Evan Mobley's fine. JJJ, Randall, they're okay. I think JV would be like the first one. He's 5.7K. Worth noting, he played last night, started 19 fantasy points in 23 minutes. I think that's a decent, it's a good per minute rate. So like, if we can get 25 to 30 minutes out of JV and starting again, I'd go back to the well at 5.7K against the Lakers. That looks awesome. Obviously, the direct pivot is Naz Reid. You can do that if you want. He's about half the ownership right now. Also looking good are Jarrett Allen, DeAndre Hunter. They look fine. Like, they don't project amazingly, but those are guys that can easily smash those price tags. So let's start there. What are your thoughts on Şengün if he's in? And I know you already like Evan Mobley, but what's the next tier that you're jumping to if not Şengün?
Yeah, we had a loaded center slate yesterday that didn't work out, and this center slate is really horrible. Once you get past Şengün at the top, like, there's a pretty steep drop off.
Which means they're all going to wreck now, right?
Yeah, probably. I'm not like crazy about Şengün. I think it's an okay spot for him, but we're not really getting a discount here. He's been decent. He hasn't really been shattering slates or anything like that. He's certainly a guy you can always play, but I have more interest in the other Rockets as of now.
Yeah.
Beyond that, like I mentioned Randall, I mentioned Mobley. Other than that, I'm kind of punting. I guess Jared Allen on FanDuel 7-3 is okay, but beyond that, I think going cheap's probably my favorite way to approach this. Valanciunas, just a great play against the Lakers again. No AD, so the matchup is definitely better than it otherwise would have been. Naz Reid, I mentioned Jackson Hayes is going to start in place of AD. I think he's okay. He's just not good per minute for a big man. So if he's chalky, which it doesn't look like he will be as of now, I'm not super into it. But if he's contrarian, I think he's an okay enough value.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really love his projection or projected minutes. What I do love is he's facing the Wizards, who give up a ton of production to center specifically. So Hayes is not a great player, or even, as you said, not even a great per minute guy, but it's just like sometimes environment and matchup are all you really need. If he's going to start and get 25, 30 minutes, I do like him a good amount. Obviously, I love JV. That is a core play for me at the moment. And then, there's other just decent guys here. Kessler, Onyeka, Rudy is kind of cheap at 5.6K. Like, these guys are fine. So Rudy played a ton of minutes yesterday, got 5 rebounds and like 17 fantasy points. Just horrendous. What are your thoughts on him? I don't think we really touched on him.
Yeah, he looks okay, like on DK where he's cheap, but with Reed in, I had a lot more interest last night when I played him, and then it was very underwhelming. So tonight it's like, yeah, he's a good play. It's a revenge game for him at Utah. Utah's not great, but they are better with Kessler in there. So, okay. Like, I think he's a fine play. I will probably play him on this slate against my better judgment, but mostly because center is a shit show on this slate. I do think that you can fully punt it if you have the stones for it with Rashawn Holmes. 3K flat on DK. Played the backup role last night behind Valanciunas. Another very good per minute guy. Only played 16 minutes, but still kind of got there for the dollar. The game has a big spread. There's a chance it could blow out. I feel like Rashawn Holmes is a decent enough punt at a really bad position. I think I have more interest in him at 3K than I do in Jackson Hayes at 4-5.
Well, his problem with that is you don't know if they're just going to be dicks and like play Anthony Gill.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a safe play at all.
No.
It's a lot like Quentin Post the other day, but I think it's fine. I don't think I would. Well, I don't know. I might consider him with Valanciunas on DK just because they're both so cheap and it's a small slate, but generally I don't want to play the backup center and the starter in the same lineup.
No, I don't love that. I think I agree in that he's worth a shot, just like a Steven Adams or something would be, or Quentin Post last night. I think those are things we should certainly
Quentin
entertain.
Post got -1 point last night as a starter.
Oh God, yeah.
He went full on Aaron Baines circa 2014.
Geez, that was quite a night. The eyes. So one other guy I do want to mention is going to be Zach Edey, just because if Şengün's in, they're going to need his size. He's actually been picking it up a little bit lately. And more specifically, he is an interesting direct pivot in the event Jackson Hayes becomes really chalky. So I'm in agreement with you. If Hayes is going to be super chalky based off of this projection, I'm okay with going underweight on that. And one way to do that could be to pivot to Edey, who is like a pretty comparable play at about the same price. All right, that is going to do it for us. Before we go, let's do our flag plant of the night and our general strategy.
Let's see. I guess this is probably the night to go back to Jalen Green, who's been good to us for most of the last month. Memphis, a big pace-up spot. There's a chance they're without Morant. I think it's a great spot for Jalen Green bounce back. Love him and Thompson, obviously, but Green's going to get a fraction of the ownership. No qualms with playing them together. They do not negatively correlate, really. So love them both. Those two Rockets are building blocks, I think, tonight.
Yeah, I love them both as well. I'm not going to double down. I just am in agreement there. Here's mine. At the risk of getting no money tonight, I'm going to be severely underweight on LeBron James. He's just really expensive. He's old. There's blowout risk. and he's gonna be really chalky. So I can get a lot of leverage on the field if he doesn't hit. I think he's still gonna do really well, even if I win that play. But there's just so many other guys on this slate that look really good as well that I think you can get away with not playing, the top projecting guy. It's not like we're fading Jokic on a 5-game slate or something. Like, it's close because there's no Brow, but I think we can get away with it. And that's just going to be my hard stance, is I'm going to be underweight on him and hope it goes my way. Another one is going to be going overweight on Banchero. It's going to be kind of just directly related. I'm going to play Banchero more than I'm going to be playing LeBron. It's definitely a move for the bold because LeBron is a great play, but that is just something I'm going to be doing in tourneys if I'm doing a lot of lineups. All right, that is going to do it for us. If this video helps you out, please give it a like and also subscribe to the channel so you can catch more videos just like this. If you want even more advice, join our Discord. The link is at the bottom of this video. And if you also want FanDuel core plays and Night Slate DK plays, you can hit our Patreon, which the link is also on our YouTube channel, or you can just come and visit Discord and ask us for the information. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.